Around dinner time on October 8, 1871, a fire began in a small barn in Chicago, a city that was predominantly built with wood. At that time, the city was also suffering not only from a severe drought, but the strong southwestern winds also fanned the fire as it grew. Once the fire had ended days later, the smoldering remains told a devastating story. 300 people killed, 17,000 structures ruined, 10,000 residents homeless, and a 2,000-year-old papyrus discovered near the ancient Egyptian city of Thebes about 50 years ago was lost in the flames. However, in 1966, several fragments of the papyrus were found in the archives of the Metropolitan Museum of Art in New York and in the Mormon Church archives. Upon examination by professional Egyptologists, these fragments were identified as Egyptian texts. Interestingly, some of the papyrus had been bought by the founder of the Mormon Church, Joseph Smith, to be used in his own research and written work. In particular, there was a papyrus called the Books of Breathing that assisted the reader in navigating the afterlife, passing the test of judgment, and being worthy of eternal life.
Your flesh is on your bones in accordance with the form that you had on earth. May you drink with your throat, may you eat with your mouth. May you receive offering bread together with the spirits of the gods. Anubis guards you. He has made your protection. You shall not be turned away from the doors of the underworld. Thoth, the thrice greatest, Lord of Hermopolis, has come to you. He has written for you a breathing document with his own fingers, so that your spirit may breathe forever, and that you might regain the form that you had on earth among the living, since you are divine together with the spirits of the gods. Your heart is the heart of Ra. Your flesh is the flesh of the great God.
Ancient Egypt is often regarded as the origin of a wide range of occult practices, with alchemy being one of them. The earliest point of alchemical history, even with some source material, albeit murky, is Egypt, or more specifically, mythical Egypt. Some view China as a potential source that evolved independently from mythical Egypt. However, while European alchemy focused on the transmutation of base metals into noble ones, Chinese alchemy was more oriented towards medicine and the elixir of life, also known as immortality. This occurred in Europe as well, but in my opinion, ancient Egypt or mythical Egypt is square one. Since the term alchemy is most likely an Egyptian word, it is clear that ancient Egypt has played a critical role in its foundation as a practice and a tradition. At the core of the ancient Egyptian system was the belief in man's immortality and the possibility of his or her resurrection after death. The phoenix is an immortal bird attributed to ancient Egypt by historian Herodotus and later 19th century scholars. Only one phoenix existed at any time, and it was very long-lived. No ancient authority gave it a lifespan of less than 500 years. As its end approached, the phoenix fashioned a nest, set it on fire, and was consumed in the flames. Miraculously, a new phoenix sprang from the pyre. The phoenix is a symbol of regeneration and resurrection, representing the accomplishment of alchemical transmutation and the creation of the philosopher's stone. This cyclical symbolism can also be seen in another alchemical image, the Ouroboros, a serpent or dragon eating its own tail. The first known representation of the Ouroboros is on one of the shrines enclosing the sarcophagus of Tutankhamun, also known as King Tut. Symbolism, art, paintings, and drawings are essential traits of alchemy. Alchemical manuscripts often include art as part of the text, always rich in symbolism and code. Similarly, hieroglyphics look more like paintings and symbols than letters. Perhaps it's conjecture on my part, but I cannot ignore the similarity. Another concept that we can trace back to ancient Egypt is the notion of the universal mind, or the idea that everything can be reduced to one kind of prima materia. After all, what alchemists seek most is the quintessence. We also have the Osiris myth, which concerns the murder of the god Osiris by his brother Set. Osiris' wife Isis restores her husband's body, allowing him to posthumously conceive their son Horus. Horus then avenges his dead father and restores cosmic and social order, thus completing the process of Osiris' resurrection. The constellation Orion is a particularly revered cluster of stars among most ancient civilizations. Osiris is represented by the entire constellation of Orion and remembered in mythological lore as the complete embodiment of all things acacia. Acacia is a medium-sized, thorny tree with rough, dark bark found in the arid parts of Africa and Asia. The ancient Egyptians viewed acacia as special, both practically and magically, considering it the tree of life. Practically, acacia has many uses. It is an attractive hardwood used by ancient Egyptians for building boats, sarcophaguses, and furniture. Acacia's flowers were used to cleanse the skin and treat skin problems. Brewed leaves were drunk as a cough mixture and applied to wounds or swollen limbs. Livestock could eat its seed pods. The crushed bark produces tannin used for healing burns and tanning leather. Gum acacia, a resin exuded by the tree, has various uses. It is edible, highly nutritious, and during the gum harvest, modern pickers survive almost entirely on it. Just 6 ounces can sustain an adult for a day. When dissolved, gum acacia produces lactic acid, which is a spermicide. DMT, a psychedelic associated with spiritual experiences, may be present in Acacia nilotica in low doses, but is present in other species of acacia in higher doses. This has led some to speculate that the Egyptians may have dabbled with mind-altering substances. According to Pliny, a Roman author, naturalist, and philosopher who lived 2,000 years ago, the acacia tree was symbolically linked with resurrection and renewal. The Book of the Dead, an ancient Egyptian text used from the beginning of the New Kingdom about 3,500 years ago, states that the deceased goes to the acacia tree of the children. The acacia is associated with various Egyptian deities, particularly Isis and her family. In some tales, the acacia is the tree that magically grew up around the body of Osiris when his sarcophagus washed up on the shores of Byblos. He is referred to as the one in the tree and the solitary one in the acacia. In the pyramid texts, Horus, Osiris' son, comes forth from the acacia tree. According to legend, Thoth instituted record-keeping and founded the science of mathematics, astronomy, and medicine. He invented hieroglyphics and wrote, or was at least the original source of, the books of breathing, fragments that survived the Chicago fire of 1871. These are late ancient Egyptian texts, with the earliest known copy dated to about 2,400 years ago. An even older scroll is the Ebers Papyrus, a 68-foot-long, 3,500-year-old compilation of medical texts. A portion of the papyrus suggests a considerable earlier origin, leading some to believe it to be a copy of ancient books of the reputed father of medicine, alchemy, and pharmacy, known as Thoth, or thrice greatest lord of Hermopolis. An epitaph of Thoth found at the temple of Esna states that Thoth is
greatest of the great, best of the best. How much greater is he than all the gods?
Thoth was the god of the moon, wisdom, writing, hieroglyphics, science, magic, art, and judgment. Egyptian mythology credits Thoth with the creation of the 365-day calendar. His Greek equivalent is Hermes. The Sumerian equivalent is Nabu. Amongst the Romans, he was Mercury. In the Quran, Thoth is Idris. In the Jewish Old Testament, Idris was Enoch. Either different cultures adapted Thoth into their own systems or mythologies, or he, as legend also tells, reincarnated and continues to do so to this day. Thoth is believed to be the one god without parents, who precedes all others. His creative willpower fashions reality, and he possesses knowledge passed down to him through several incarnations over many centuries, much like an archaic version of the Dalai Lama tradition. In art, Thoth was often depicted as a man with the head of an ibis or a baboon, often depicted holding an ankh, the Egyptian symbol for life. The ibis is the Egyptian symbol for the heart, and Thoth presides over the weighing of the heart ceremony, weighing individuals' true words or their innermost intent in all of our thoughts and actions, determining who is admitted into heaven, much like the part St. Peter plays at the pearly gates. The reason Thoth is relevant to the history of alchemy is that he created what is known as the Emerald Tablet, a very important alchemical text, most famously known as the Emerald Tablet by Hermes Trismegistus, thrice greatest to be exact. Artapanus of Alexandria, an Egyptian Jew who lived in the 3rd or 2nd century before Christ, saw Thoth Hermes as a historical human being and claimed he was the same person as Moses, based primarily on their shared roles as authors of texts and creators of laws. Many later authors from late antiquity to the Renaissance either identified Hermes Trismegistus with Moses or regarded them as contemporaries who expounded similar beliefs. Both had tablets with an important text, one the Emerald Tablet and the other the 10 Commandments. Some legend suggests that he was the 3rd son of Adam and Eve, Seth, who wrote the Emerald Tablet and kept it within the Ark of the Covenant. Sigmund Freud, in his final book, Moses and Monotheism, postulated that Moses was an Egyptian nobleman who adhered to the monotheism of Akhenaten. Akhenaten was the 10th ruler of the 18th dynasty about 3,300 years ago, and the likely future father of the famous Tutankhamun, King Tut, who did, if you recall, have the first known representation of the Ouroboros on one of the shrines enclosing his sarcophagus. Could it be that Akhenaten provided Moses with the emerald tablet, and later, through Chinese whispers, the effect of cumulative errors as rumors or gossip spreads, it became the two Ten Commandment tablets? There are claims that Thoth was an Atlantean priest king, but the connection between Thoth and Atlantis and the Great Pyramid is a modern invention, concocted by Maurice Doreal. Maurice Doreal claimed that in 1925 he went to the Great Pyramids of Giza and discovered the Emerald Tablet of Thoth, a king of Atlantis. He then claimed that he had translated the text. The Emerald Tablets of Thoth, the Atlantean, is basically a New Age philosophy. This text is a modern concept writing of little importance and often confused with the Emerald Tablet by Hermes Trismegistus, aka Thoth. No one has ever seen the original tablets mentioned in Doreal's work, and in all likelihood these writings could be considered at best channeled material. In any case, I cannot claim Doreal to be a fraud. Perhaps he did channel knowledge from Thoth. You will have to make up your own mind about that. The flood myth is prevalent in almost all cultures, with the most famous being the story in the Bible. Atlantis, or more significantly, the idea of Atlantis, resides in the collective unconscious of all humans and is a rich subject in itself. Its actual existence, whether true or merely a fictional fantasy, is somewhat irrelevant. The term Atlantean has become synonymous with something magnificent, and whenever this name is attached to another entity, it implies its greatness, and the fall of that greatness, symbolized by Atlantis sinking into the sea. Even J.R.R. Tolkien, the author of The Lord of the Rings, incorporated an Atlantis-like land in his writings, which took the form of Numenor, a kingdom on a large island west of Middle-earth, and the most advanced civilization of men. However, after centuries of prosperity, many of the inhabitants ceased to worship the one god, Eru Ilúvatar, and rebelled, resulting in the destruction of the island and the death of most of its people. To submerge something in water implies its dissolution, and the water dissolves the material that has been calcinated with fire. As far as I'm concerned, the Emerald Tablet by Hermes Trismegistus is the only emerald tablet of interest when discussing alchemy. It is of course a legend and a myth that Thoth created the Emerald Tablet, or that Thoth is Hermes. Nevertheless, the Emerald Tablet by Hermes Trismegistus is an enigmatic and significant text when it concerns alchemy, and that is why the next episode will be solely dedicated to it.